Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of What You Gonna Queue. All of our loyal viewers know what we're all about already, but for those of you who may be new viewers, What You Gonna Queue is a weekly video series in which we highlight some of the best titles that Netflix has to offer, with recommendations broken down into these three categories. Instant Karma, where we recommend some of the best instant titles to watch before they expire. What the F is This, where we highlight some of the obscure or overlooked titles buried in the annals of Netflix. And For Your Consideration, where the recommended titles tie into a timely, predetermined cinematic theme. As always, I am one of your co-hosts, Jim Roner.
And I'm your other co-host, Alex Rabinowitz.
Yes, and Alex, I would like to present you with this little gift.
For me?
It's for you, but it's actually for everybody. Because in less than a week, it's going to be Valentine's Day. And because you people out there love movies as much as we do, we are going to be recommending you some great movies that we love, as well as some love movies as well.
That's a lot of love, Jim.
It is a lot of love.
And I love a movie in section 1.
Oh, all right then.
Return to Neverland with Steven Spielberg's continuation of the Peter Pan story in Hook. Based on the classic literature by J.M. Barrie, the film stars Robin Williams as Peter Pan, Dustin Hoffman as Captain Hook, and Julia Roberts as Tinkerbell. After years away from Neverland, Peter Pan has grown up and become a high-powered lawyer. But after Captain Hook kidnaps his children, Pan is forced to return and remember how to be the eternal child he once was.
Remember what?
Peter, don't you know who you are?
Jim, it's really unfortunate that Hook gets such a bad rap in cinematic history.
We may have our differences in opinions, Alex, but I am totally with you on this one, and thank you. I just want to thank you.
Oh, here's the love. Here's the love.
But no, I think you're absolutely right. I don't understand why people hate this movie so much. It's a great blend of a fantasy for kids and just some really mature themes for adults. And you know, and I love the fact that Hook is kind of this other side of like a mythology we already know about. So like, what happened if the perpetual child was no longer a child? I think it's a great retelling.
And it gives it this blend of a story that everyone's familiar with, characters everyone, Wendy, Tinkerbell, Captain Hook, everyone is familiar with these characters, but it brings its own original spin, and then Spielberg, of course, infuses his branded magic.
Yeah, and his branded father issues as well, which is a separate matter. But and what's great about Hook is the casting. I mean, you have Robin Williams, who himself is kind of like a grown child in a lot of ways, and Dustin Hoffman, who gives a great performance as a villain, as somebody you wouldn't necessarily expect.
All right. How much?
If like someone was going to say, oh, who should we cast as Captain Hook? Yeah. And then the casting director says, I think we should get Dustin Hoffman. You would probably laugh in that person's face. Yeah. But then you watch it, and he's just so in this character. He just disappears behind the role, and it's a really great, surprising turn that's completely different from almost the rest of his career.
Yeah, like Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium, which made me want to slam my head against a brick wall. But for those of us who may want to relive our childhood, do we have to do this right away? When does Hook expire?
Hook expires February 21st, so you have a few weeks.
So one film dealing with the travel to a faraway land, Neverland. Let's transition to my film in which we are traveling from a faraway land. And what the bleep is this? My recommendation is Transsiberian. In this Hitchcockian thriller, co-written and directed by Brad Anderson, innocent married couple Roy and Jesse, played by Woody Harrelson and Emily Mortimer, are traveling from Moscow to China on a Trans-Siberian train when they encounter a pair of mysterious strangers, played by Kate Mara and Eduardo Noriega, and an enigmatic Russian narcotics agent played by Ben Kingsley. This chance encounter exposes the pair to an underground world of drug trafficking, corruption, and murder that threatens to stir up past transgressions and ruin them forever.
Who are the bad guys?
People who look innocent, but they're really not.
And Alex, you may note that this is not the first time I've mentioned Brad Anderson on What You Gonna Queue.
Oh, yes.
Back in the Halloween episode, I recommended his underrated and underseen horror film, Session 9. And Transsiberian is once again another foray into genre filmmaking for Anderson. This one he deals with the thriller instead of a horror title. But it's just solidly crafted and just another entry in a guy that is really making a name for himself in just some really solid genre titles.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've heard that this be compared to Hitchcock. You know, many critics like to throw that around. And do you agree with that statement?
I absolutely agree with those sentiments. I know that critics and people in the media love to throw out snippets and sound bites that can go on movie posters, but for once they're very on the money with this. Brad Anderson himself has said that he was inspired by a lot of Hitchcock titles, Strangers on a Train, North by Northwest, A Lady Vanishes, and you can really see how he imbues this film with just this incredible feeling of tension. Grinko, the character played by Ben Kingsley, has this great line in the film that says, "With lies we can move ahead in life, but we can never go back."
Your wife has problems with the truth.
And that's really indicative of this film in two ways. One, the fact that just this one mistake that Jessie makes at the beginning of the film really snowballs into this series of events that she can't go back and she can't reverse and she kind of has to, confront until just a great climax. And two, this underlying theme of redemption, because it's hinted at that Jessie has kind of a troubled past that she corrected when she met Roy. Can she really ignore who she was in the past? Can people really change?
Now, Jim.
Yes.
I love the ladies.
Don't we all?
Is Emily Mortimer the strong female protagonist I've been looking for?
I think she absolutely is, Alex. Unlike other films where there might be a strong male protagonist at the center with a female sidekick that kind of comes along for the ride, in Transsiberian it's the exact opposite. This is Emily Mortimer, Jessie's film. Everything rests on her shoulders, the conflict, the action, everything, the resolution is all on her. And speaking of love for the ladies, Alex, I think the ladies, as well the dudes, are going to love the recommendations that we have for your consideration. Valentine's Day is less than a week away, and that means that many of you married, engaged, or otherwise just unavailable men and ladies will be forced to sit through some truly abysmal romantic comedies, which, according to the Vatican, is actually equivalent to the punishment that you will find in the sixth circle of hell reserved for heretics. Now, if you wish to avoid cinematic damnation, stick around for our recommendations where we recommend some truly great, unconventional romantic comedies.
Yay! 500 Days of Summer is an indie anti-romantic comedy from director Mark Webb and fresh-faced writers Scott Neustadter and Michael H. Weber. Joseph Gordon-Levitt plays Tom, a greeting card writer who falls for free-spirited Summer as played by Zooey Deschanel. What results is a seemingly perfect, imperfect relationship that is headed for disaster, all the while exposing truths about modern dating and love.
You should know up front, this is not a love story.
Alex, not many people know that Mark Webb, the director of 500 Days of Summer, came from a music video directing background. And I really love the music videos that he used to direct, even if I didn't necessarily like the artist for whom he directed them. But he proved, like David Fincher and Spike Jonze before him, that he makes the transition from music video directing to feature filmmaking completely seamlessly and just makes a fantastic film.
Yeah, this movie is great, and he takes all those music video sensibilities of low budgets, a lot of cuts, a lot of setups, high concept ideas, and brings it to this film.
Yeah, with the script from Neustadter and Weber, Mark Webb doesn't have to rely on his visual flair and his visual style because the script that they wrote is really conducive for his just ingenuity to come out.
Exactly. It's a very creative, clever script, and it uses a lot of unconventional things that we haven't really seen that often in this romantic comedy genre. You get non-chronological structure. There are fantasy sequences, like musical numbers and side-by-side different outcomes of the same scene. There's homages to different kinds of filmmaking. There's a French New Wave homage. There's documentary homage. It's almost like the Scott Pilgrim of romantic comedies.
You'll get over her.
I don't want to get over her. I want to get it back.
That's a good way of describing it. And what I like is that in a lot of Hollywood romantic comedies, they play off this fiction as reality, and nobody can really buy that. What's interesting in 500 Days of Summer is that there are fantastical elements that are admittedly fantasy, and yet they feel more real and more resonant than the Hollywood garbage that they try and shove down our throats.
Exactly, and that's why this is one of my favorite romantic comedies. It's because it finds the truth in such fantastical moments, and it really gets inside the head of the people, at least in this case, Tom, the male side of it, going through this relationship. And it shows that not every relationship ends in happily ever after. Sometimes, even though they seemed perfect for each other, they might not be, and you learn something from it and move on.
Right. No, that's a really good point. And because I'm a natural cynic when it comes to these things, I'm also going to be recommending a film in which the relationship doesn't work out, in Annie Hall. Woody Allen writes, directs, and stars in the first of what would be a long series of Oscar-nominated films for the Brooklyn-born filmmaker. Allen stars as Alvy, a neurotic New York comedian, hard to believe, isn't it, who reflects on a failed relationship with the ditzy Annie Hall, played by Diane Keaton. Equally introspective as it is funny, the film reflects on the ups and downs, ins and outs, and highlights and lowlights of a relationship that changed the lives of both parties involved.
No, that was wonderful. I love being reduced to a cultural stereotype.
Now, as I said, this is the first Oscar-nominated and Oscar-winning film for Woody Allen. He won Best Director, Diane Keaton won Best Actress, and this turned out to be the last comedy that would win Best Picture at the Academy Awards. It's also very accessible. It's one of his most accessible films, I feel, which is a little bit surprising because Woody Allen is a filmmaker that makes no bones about paying homage to the filmmakers he loves, most specifically Ingmar Bergman. But in Annie Hall, he really kind of blends his artistic influences with a lot of mainstream appeal and just how funny it truly is. So, and I think that leads to a film which is really everybody can find something that they love in it.
Without Annie Hall, there would be no 500 Days of Summer. It was the benchmark for unconventional, clever romantic comedies.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you because when Annie Hall came out, we hadn't seen anything like it before, and everything that's kind of pulled from its sense is just, oh, that's a clear imitator of Annie Hall. Yeah. He has these unconventional gags like he breaks the fourth wall and directly addresses the audience. He subtitles his conversations, and it kind of shows what the people are thinking rather than what they're saying. And he interacts with memories and flashbacks and just in these revelatory and really kind of, like I said, unconventional ways of expressing what he is thinking and feeling without being too in your face and too blunt about it.
Were you always funny?
Hey, what is this, an interview? We're supposed to be making love.
Yeah, and it's interesting how the film kind of toes the line between a sugary Hollywood romance and a bleak indie drama.
Yeah, because there are high points and there are low points, but they never get melodramatic or overdramatic in any way. What I really, really appreciate about Annie Hall is how mature and genuine it is in reflecting on a relationship. The relationship doesn't work out, but that's not to say that both of them are better or worse because of it, but they're just different. And this is really a subtlety, that idea of a relationship can change you even if it's not everlasting. That's a subtlety that a lot of Hollywood romantic comedies just really ignore nowadays, and it's really a shame.
I think it's safe to say that our love for these films will never end.
That's true. Unlike this show, which is ending right now. But thanks again for watching, guys. If you want to reach us, you can always contact us by email. We have a Facebook page, we have a Twitter account, and we have a blog at whatchagonnaque.com. So until next time, guys, remember, you had me at hello.